Hey, good morning, all. Welcome to the Common Good Podcast. Glad to have you around with us today. It's Tuesday. What is it, Rob? The 18th or something of 19th of September.
Because tomorrow is Whimsy's birthday.
How do you like that? How old is the
Whimsy
youngin'?
will be 9 years old tomorrow.
Wow.
Yep. And it reminds me of what my mom used to say to me. She used to say, I didn't like you when you were 9.
Wow.
So.
And you're like, Mom, as a 10-year-old, that is hard to hear. That is, I gotta tell you, Mom, that cuts straight to the bone. I didn't like you as a 9-year-old. Well, I guess we could all imagine Robb Ryerse as a 9-year-old. Did she paint in the colors on that, or did she just leave you with a general sense of unlikability?
I'm Doug. I'm an Enneagram 3, and I like to say that if my parents had loved me, I would be an Enneagram 7.
There was such hope. I was one parent's love away from having fun in life. Hey, all right.
Instead, I'm here just trying to get stuff done, and hopefully people will love me as a result.
Earn somehow, somewhere. Hey, well, good morning to you, Rob, from Minneapolis. We always check in about the weather if people are new to this, because you're just here to hear about the Dauphin County Commissioner race, which we hope you're excited about. We'll be talking with Justin Douglas here in a minute about that. But weather outside is just classic fall day. Couldn't be more lovely. It's really the kind of day where I wish I was still playing golf on a regular basis, because, man, you would just hit the course today in the Minnesota area and just enjoy hours and hours of the weather giving you a kiss. It's really quite lovely.
Yes.
How are things snarled away outside of Springdale, Arkansas?
Absolutely the same way. I had a call this morning, and I thought, well, I could go up into the office and set up and have my call there, and then I'll be all ready for the podcast. Or I could sit on the back porch and drink a cup of coffee while I have this Zoom call this morning. And that's what I decided to do, because it is just gorgeous weather here. Just absolutely lovely. And I'm drinking my coffee today out of my We Almost Always Almost Win mug.
I'm guessing this is a football reference, and I heard that somebody, one of the millionaires involved in the conspiracy, or in the I don't know, what's it called? What was Trump's thing called down in Florida or down in Georgia? They called it not a criminal, an operate
enterprise, criminal enterprise.
The enterprise. Yeah, I heard that one of the millionaires involved in the Cleveland enterprise got a boo-boo this weekend.
Yeah. I was watching the game last night. Wearing the person who was injured is a running back named Nick Chubb. I was wearing a Nick Chubb t-shirt, as I often do during football games, because I'm a huge fan of his. And he got hit, and almost immediately the announcers on Monday Night Football said, folks, we're not going to show you the replay of that hit because the injury is so gruesome.
Can we just stop hitting people in this world?
It was a bit surprising, because it happened like that happened. So like they had that reaction so quickly. So of course, later I'm scrolling on Twitter during the game, and people have posted the video, and Nick Chubb's knee, which normally goes this way.
Well, I'm not looking at the screen now, so anybody else who needs a trigger warning
goes
no,
it goes the other direction. It was
here's the thing, Rob. If that
horrific
kind of accident happened in other work environments, OSHA would come in and shut it down. Can we just, for the love
horrific.
of things. Stop this. Just
Yeah.
this madness.
I was texting I was texting with a friend of mine during the game, and I texted him. I said, I immediately regret seeing that video. It was
The regrets. They can
And I
go
didn't-
much.
I
They can
didn't
go much
exact-
deeper. They can
I
go
know,
much
yeah.
deeper.
Oh, seriously, they do go deeper.
Regret.
Yeah, that was very surface.
Yeah,
kind
no.
of regret,
Look,
but a real one.
I still have. I don't know. Was it Joe Montana?
Joe Theismann.
Joe Theismann
was
still
sacked by Lawrence Taylor, and broke
Look,
his
you
leg.
tie a nice little belt around their waist. You hang a couple of flags off of it, and you're 80% of the way to the NFL. You can even make it 2-flag tackle, right? Both flags have to come off.
Yeah. You know what I think they ought to do?
What?
I think they ought to play without helmets.
Okay, well, there's a hot take, as you like to say, because then
Yeah.
you think they won't ram their bodies into each other.
Yeah, they won't lead with their heads. It will greatly, go back to leather helmets.
Okay.
Greatly reduce concussions. And
That sport is called rugby, by the way. If you've seen rugby, they don't play with pads.
right.
Precisely
Yeah.
because they're like, you put somebody inside of a military grade Kevlar and they're going to do things.
They're going to launch themselves like a missile at the best running back in the league's knee.
Yeah.
And blow
Well, and
it
to be clear,
backwards.
these athletes are, these are the best in the history of humankind. The strength, the speed, the dexterity, the ability to fly in the air on point, the ability to run and cut as fast and hard as they do. It's too much. There was a little, because of all the concussions and was it CTE? Is that the phrase? Because CTE, they were talking, a couple of years ago about really ratcheting all that back, and then America said,
we like football.
No, we're gonna no. If you do that, we're gonna keep taking books away from children at school. So you just try to keep waking up, and we're gonna keep shutting it down. And that's the see. There's a tie-in. Football has caused book bans. I'll wrap this around after we talk to the next commissioner for Dauphin County in Pennsylvania. Okay, I will wrap this back into you. All right. For those who don't know, people run for office for a lot of reasons. People run for a lot of offices. Robb Ryerse on your screen right now, running for the state house in the great state of Arkansas. And our guest today, Justin, is running for the county commissioner in Dauphin County, Pennsylvania. Hi, Justin.
Hey, Doug. How are you? Rob,
Good.
how you doing?
Good, buddy. Apologies if you had to sit through that without, being able to say a thing.
No, it's good. It's good. Nick Chubb. It was heartbreaking news. This is the same knee, I think, from 2016 that had a complete ACL, MCL completely reconstructed. So it's a really heartbreaking blow.
Yeah, he blew out this knee when he was in college. I don't know if you saw the video, Justin. It is.
I did not see the video, and I don't want to see the video.
Listen, as I posted a picture of my "We Almost Always Almost Win" mug this morning, and I said, I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to talk about it. Let's talk.
Okay.
Doug's giving me a look like, sure you don't.
Really? Or literally talking about it? You started with the mug. Okay.
Right.
Did you draft Nick Chubb? Did you draft Nick Chubb in the first round of your fantasy? Is that what happened here? Is that why you can't get it out of your head?
No. I was born and raised in Cleveland, Ohio. My
Gotcha.
fandom of the Browns goes deep, deep, deep. And but no, I don't play fantasy football. That would be ridiculous.
Yeah. What kind of obsession would that show? It's not enough to actually watch it, but make a fantasy world so you can then on the days. Because what days is professional football in the fall not available to us? It's available on Sundays. It's available on Mondays. It's available on Thursdays. It's often available on Saturdays. Mm-hmm. So fantasy football fills your Tuesday, Friday.
Yeah.
And
I was wearing a shirt with a last night with with the name. I'm a grown man wearing the shirt with the name of another grown man on it. Which is just. And then at one point, my wife said to me last night, she said, "You have the word chub written across your back."
Is it down low, like along your hips, where the chub gets carried by me? Is that? I would want that like hockey name. Hockey players put the name down low. All right, hey, enough of the nonsense.
Justin.
Enough of the nonsense. Yeah, Justin. All right, hey, Justin. I was over on your website, DouglasForDauphin.com, and it's terrific, by the way, because you have this like PDF that's circled with all the things that a county commissioner does.
Yeah.
I think that's fabulous. Will you just start, and then we want to know more about you, because we think the candidate is as interesting as the race. But tell us what a commissioner does. Everybody lives in a county. Most of us don't think about it unless you're asked a question, like you're renewing your license tabs or license registration, and you have to tell them what county you're in, so that portion of the money goes to the proper county. But most of us don't think about ourselves living in a county, or a lot of us don't anyway. But it's a really important piece of the governmental process. So tell us what county commissioners do.
Yeah, no, the bigger question, well, I get asked this question all the time. One of the big things I say is like, it's maybe easier to talk about what a county commissioner doesn't do, because, when it comes to the county, they have oversight of so much. When it comes to development, when it comes to human services. So, for example, when I think about our human services in Dauphin County, I think about, Dauphin County Prison, children and youth, mental health care. I could continue going on and on through all the human services that exist in our county. They oversee gaming grants because we have a casino in our county specifically. And so that casino, the agreement with that casino is that there's grants that are made available through the profits for that casino that then get sent out to nonprofits or other initiatives happening throughout the county. And the county commissioners are the determiners of where that grant money flows to. They oversee the Board of Elections. That's probably one of the biggest, I think, hot topics right now.
Oh boy!
County commissioners oversee the Board of Elections. They set they set that up. So we just have a lot, I would say, at stake with our county commissioners. They're almost like the governors of the county, is what I kind of try to tell people. Some people use language like CEOs. The challenge is it's not really a CEO position or a governor position, in that there's one person. In Pennsylvania's way, at least, of setting it up, and this is in most counties in Pennsylvania. There are some outliers, but in most counties in Pennsylvania, you have 3 county commissioners, and there's bipartisan representation on there. So you'll have 4 people run. Two Democrats, 2 Republicans. Typically, obviously, there can be other candidates on the ticket as well, but the top 3 vote getters get in. And so you have minority party representation. So in the history of Dauphin County, it's only ever been 2 Republicans and 1 Democrat. And this year, we're hoping that we can have 2 Democrats and 1 Republican.
And what difference would that make, short of the person who identifies as a Republican or a Democrat probably has a different political perspective? What is there a power thing like there is in the legislature? Does it make any difference short of the individual that's in the commissioner role?
Well, all three individuals who are running for this office were going to run unopposed, and they've all been in county politics their entire life. Part of what got me in the race was that I feel like we should have a choice, and I also feel like we should have new voices, new ideas coming to the surface in our politics. And so much of the county is the reality that we're serving people. And in my career as a pastor, I've just felt this call to serve people. One of the parables that I've shared with people is about these 2 guys who are walking along a river, and they're out on a hike. They're walking along a river, and they hear a child in the creek drowning. And one of them jumps in, saves the child, pulls him to the shore. By the time he gets him to the shore, there's another child drowning. The other person jumps in. Before long, they're going back and forth, pulling these kids out of the river. And this lasts for about 10 minutes before one of them says, just pulls the child to the shore and then just starts walking on the trail again. And the other one's in the water still rescuing kids. And it's like, what are you doing? Where are you going? And he goes, I'm going upriver to see who keeps throwing these kids in the water. And I feel like part of what I'm doing here, as a pastor, I've seen the crisis in the unhoused community. I've seen the crisis in drug and alcohol rehabilitation. These are both things that county commissioners oversee with resources for the county. They help with unhoused issues, and they also help with drug and alcohol rehabilitation. I go on and on with the things as a pastor that I've seen downstream effects of in a culture, in a community, things that are maybe underfunded or understaffed or just under-resourced, where I think, this is me going upstream and saying, I want to have a little bit of a say in how these structures are organized, the policies, the systems that I think could work better for the people that need them. And ultimately, I think give them a better chance at succeeding within the community.
Yes, beautiful.
Yeah. Justin, you don't look like a typical politician or wannabe politician. You mentioned that you've been a pastor. You're not coming from the lawyer world into this, with the suit and tie and all of that. How is it been running as you?
Yeah, no, I think that's actually, I'll say this. I think that's actually kind of a little bit of my superpower. Not that I have superpowers, but that, as a pastor, I've never looked like a pastor either. I have a full sleeve tattoo. On my arm, I have gauged earrings. Like I have never really looked like a pastor in my life either. Maybe a youth pastor. But I think part of that is the relatability factor. In our particular state, we have someone like Fetterman who wears hoodies everywhere and shorts. It's like there's something that connects about someone just being a person, not being, for lack of a better term, a suit. And not that I'm saying that's who other politicians are, but I want to be authentic. I'm running as an authentic candidate. I'm not bought. I don't have people telling me how to dress, telling me how to do things. My entire campaign staff is volunteers. Honestly, most of them are just friends of mine who are willing to volunteer for my campaign and help me out and share ideas. And we're passionate about serving people, and that's the center of our campaign, not the way I look. I'm not going to change who I am to get into an office. And look, I'll throw a suit on more than I frequently do, because like Thursday night, I got to go to a gala event. I got to put a suit on. I'm not opposed to that, but like as far as like the way I look, I want to be authentically me, and that I think has connected with voters, especially as I've knocked on doors. They've kind of been surprised that I'm running for office. I was at a fair last night. People were walking by the booth and they just thought I was manning the booth, and I was like, I'm running for Dauphin County Commissioner. And they're like, oh, you're running? And so it's almost like a good little superpower to knock people off guard, to be memorable, and also to maybe make an impression.
Justin, I want to double down on this one, because you also could have a look from people who pay attention to style. Short cropped hair on the side for those who are just listening to the podcast, longer on the top. White guy, middle-ish age, peak performance age, sleeved tattoos. That can also look like a lot of right-wingers. That can look like a lot of the sort of hardcore Trumpies. Do you get that when, like, not only are people saying to you, hey, you don't really strike me as a politician, does your whole vibe kind of give off the feel to people? And then they're like, oh, and you're running as a Democrat? Like, is that piece in there as well? You know what I'm getting at? Have you picked up any of that?
That's happened. That's definitely happened. There's been people who are like, oh, you're running as a Democrat. I didn't know. Or they'll have a whole conversation with me. I really like you. And then they find out I'm running as a Democrat. And then they're like, well, I don't like you now. And it's like, we just talked about, like last night I talked to a guy at the Gratz Fair, which is it's in Upper Dauphin County. And that area is largely Republican. It would be like, some people call it Trump country, but I live in Trump country part of our county. I don't really want to define people by Trump, not Trump, Democrat, Republican. I think people are people. And I think when we talk about local politics, it's maybe the best place to kind of start to say, we might be divided on some things, but there's a lot of unity we can find.
Sure.
For example, when I talk to Republicans, even Trump voters, about 18 people dying in our prison in the last 4 years, and then I start talking about the circumstances of those deaths, they're equally concerned. They think that's a problem. When I talk about concerns over our real estate tax for our county being almost twice as much as the neighboring counties, and the concern that we're going to potentially need to raise taxes. We haven't raised taxes in 18 years, and that's where our rate is. That's a problem for conservatives and progressives. So some of the things that you would typically think would fall on just one side of the coin, I think are issues for both. And I think when we bring people into the conversation, when we talk about, spot zoning and how certain people with certain privileges are getting zoned certain ways, getting favors, behind closed doors that are ultimately not working for the people. The other thing I've found a real connection with, I might have a goal to knock all the doors in my particular township, Conewago Township, which is where I live, where I am right now, where I'm on this call. I think it's about 80% Republican. As I've already started knocking those doors, hundreds of doors in my township already, it's been very interesting to connect with Republican voters, because I can see, obviously, before I knock on your door, I know if you're a Republican or Democrat. We have the walking list. We can see all that.
Okay, just pause and tell us how you know that. A lot of listeners might not know how that's knowable. Talk about that list, that thing you have in your hand.
This is all things I've learned, along the way of running a political campaign. But pretty much you have an elections office that you can go and you can get that information as a candidate. So we have a big, huge box, because it's a countywide race, of paper that gives us the walking list. We also access it digitally. We paid to access it digitally from the elections office on a thumb drive. And then we have a software that we use. We're using a software called Universe to then parse that data out and create, walking lists that are most efficient, and that kind of give us an idea of, different sections that we could hand off to volunteers or do in whichever way we want. So this is like just deep canvassing. I can get really into it, but ultimately, if you voted, your data, not necessarily who you voted for, but just how you're registered. I don't know who you could vote for a Democrat if you're registered a Republican. I would never know that. But what I would know is what your affiliation is, what your party affiliation is. So I go knock on a door. So we've been doing that. And I guess I would say, I think there's a lot more openness to a candidate like me, even from people in, Trump world. Now I'm not going to say people in that particular space are open to a candidate with a D next to their name, because I don't think they are. But I will say, I grew up in rural Indiana. I grew up on a farm. I grew up where there wasn't a whole lot of opportunity for people. And when Trump won the first time, there was a lot of people very shocked by that. I wasn't as shocked, because in talking with friends back home, they didn't necessarily like Trump, but they thought he represented the Molotov cocktail into the system that never worked for them. Now, obviously, if you're still riding with Trump, that's become a very different thing. But I guess
it's now Mad Max. He blew it all up, and now you're riding through a Mad Max landscape.
Yeah, but what I would say is the connection is to say, some people don't like establishment politics.
Yeah.
I represent the non-established politician.
Yep.
So I think trying to find the deeper thing that might have connected them to a candidate like Trump and start the conversation there. That's kind of been how I've handled it. And it's for the most part gone well.
Thank you.
Part of our theory of change here at Vote Common Good is this idea. There's kind of two things that go along with it. One is we're always looking for and encouraging candidates to be exceptional candidates. And what we mean by that is the type of candidate that someone's willing to make an exception for. They'd say, oh, I'd never vote for a Democrat, but I would vote for Justin. And, that they're willing to make that little exception, and then the other thing that we operate on in that we're really focusing on is this idea that behavioral change happens before identity change. Like we're not out here trying to make more Democrats. What we're trying to do is get people to behave differently, i.e. vote differently. And so, imagine, Justin, part of your pitch can be is, listen, you're a Republican. I'm not asking you to, give up your identity as a Republican. Try something different this time. Let's,
Well, do you want to know what I say to that? Do you want to know what I say to that? Which is a very, very unique thing I can say in my race is I can say, guess what? You can still vote for a Republican and you can vote for me.
Yeah,
because
great.
because
Love
they
it.
get
You
two
get two
votes.
votes.
They
Love
get
it.
two votes, and so I'm like,
Love it.
vote for a Republican and vote for me.
Yeah.
It works in my
That's
case.
great.
Yeah.
Justin, we have a little quippy phrase where we say, "You're still you, even if you vote blue." So feel free to
Good. I like
feel
that.
free
I
to
like
use that one. Feel free to use
I
that one
will. I will. I will.
if you want to. Hey, what have you learned about yourself in all this?
Yeah.
What's been the thing that you're like, well, okay, there was a piece of me that is coming to life because I'm now in this role.
Oh, that's good. I think I've learned that a lot of my entrepreneurial like spirit and energy, and like I've helped kind of launch two different churches in my time as a pastor. A lot of grassroots, getting volunteers plugged in, and connecting people to a mission, I guess is what I would say.
Mm-hmm.
Not just connecting people to something to do, but connecting people to something that has purpose. That's something I've spent a lot of my life doing, and I don't think I ever realized how that might transfer outside of church work only, right? And I think I've seen some of like, wow, this is like I'm surprised that people are surprised I'm doing this well, because this is just what I've always done. And so that's been interesting. I'll also give a negative, because I don't just want to give a positive. I think, this negative is a little bit about me, but also a little bit about our system. As I pulled the curtain back, is like seeing what it takes to fundraise for even a local election, and realizing that, in talking with, I've gotten very connected to some political figures in Pennsylvania politics and beyond, and seeing that most of their days are spent fundraising, and realizing that, obviously there's a necessary element of fundraising, but realizing how much that apparatus of money is pulling people, I think, away from the job, but then on top of it, creating the sideways energy of influence, being bought. And I think I'm very much I'm a very principled leader. That's who I've always been. In 2019, I lost my job because I decided LGBT people should be included in the church. And that was something I was willing to do. I knew that was potentially on the table. But that was a hill I was willing to die on, because that's the type of leader I am. I think when I'm looking at our political landscape in the future, you're either only going to have rich people around or people willing to be bought if it maintains this way, and I think that's something I'm learning about, like, how do I do this differently and still get my name out there and still have an impact? Obviously a local race is different than if this was a national race. That'd be very, very challenging.
I ran for the state house here in Minnesota and didn't get the nomination. So I like to say I was like early Hillary Clinton. Soon I want to be like the next stage of Hillary Clinton, where I get the nomination even if I don't win. And then after that race, one of the political organizers here, I worked through a thing called the Wellstone Project. And so one of the kind of coaches in that world said, hey, you should think about running for county commissioner. And I said, oh man, it was a lot of work just thinking about the House, because that's kind of the smallest, constituency. It wasn't even a full city. The whole county, I said, I don't think I have time for that. And he said an interesting thing. He said, oh, there's only so many hours in the day. There's only so many doors you're ever going to knock on. It's not like you're having to do more and more. You're just going to have to organize it differently, organize it for wider impact. And I thought that was interesting, right? That it's that's what goes on in these politics. And I'm not going to make you dive into Rob and my constant conversation whether small dollar donors are killing politics. I believe it is, because not only are things getting more expensive just to do everything, the signs behind you to print, buying the data, just all this basic stuff just is expensive. Billboards, you're going to talk about that in a minute, that you're putting up some billboards. But then the fact that you've got to go around and get, 4,000 people to donate to you is just exhausting, right? And some of those people that give money are getting hit up by lots of people. So there's just something really broken about the whole process in addition to the money. But in the end, there's only so much you can do.
Yeah.
So how much money is this thing going to cost you? And I know you don't want to be bought, but if you were willing to be bought, how expensive is this race if someone was going to buy you out for this whole thing? Someone's gonna
my answer
write the
to
check.
that would be we'll find out after November 7th how much this race costs.
Okay,
We're
enough.
we're doing it on a shoestring budget, and we really think we're actually going to be able to make an impact. But I also played in bands, throughout college, and DIY marketing is kind of what bands do. You know what I mean? And so I think it's a little. We have a little bit different approach. We're not going to go pay some marketing firm $100,000 to market for our campaign. So I will say, my opponents by the end, I think all three of my opponents have raised $250,000, or all three of the other ones running. And to put that in perspective, we haven't even gone through they haven't even reported the period of time that's probably the highest dollar donations that they'll be getting. So like by the time election comes, they could raise something like $400,000. Now, I want you to think about that. This job pays about $100,000 a year. So they could raise in one campaign election cycle what they're going to make over the 4-year term that they're going to be in office. That's an interesting, situation. And then, and I don't want to be critical of our current commissioners, but I'm more critical of the system because this is happening in every county, not just ours. What ends up happening is when you go look at those sheets and who's giving money to them, the people giving money to them are corporations that also hold county contracts. And the county commissioners are determining those contracts. An example of one of those contracts might be, we have a prison that is profiting off of the communication of our prisoners, meaning for prisoners to stay in contact with their family, their kids, for example, they have to pay a premium for that contact. That contact is outsourced to a corporation. They bid on a contract. My question is, if that corporation gives money to commissioners who set those contracts, next time they're up for bid, if it's in the next 4 years, are they really going to do what's best for the taxpayer and get the best deal for the taxpayer? And I would even say for the prisoner, to make sure the prisoner is not paying an exorbitant amount to communicate with their family. No, they're going to probably go with the organization that has been funding their campaign. It's a very interesting situation. And look, I think that long term is what we need to be thinking about. Obviously, my campaign isn't running on fixing that because I'm not going to be able to fix that apparatus.
Yep.
But I do think what we're trying to do is say we're not going to become part of that apparatus. So, conservative estimates from the people I've talked to have said we need to raise $250,000 to have any chance to win this race. We're nowhere close to that. And I would say we don't really want to be because we're not really trying to run that kind of campaign. At the same time, if you want to donate to my campaign, it's right there. And we'll get some more billboards, and every dollar you donate will be used efficiently. I can promise you that.
Okay, so it's not $250,000. I said 100,000. Do you have a budget for $100,000? Like where are you at?
We're more in the we have not budgeted specifically what we're going for. We have tiers of budgeting. Yep. If we get to this is what we want. And so we've hit the tier where we're getting a billboard now.
Great.
I think $50,000 to $100,000, somewhere in that range would be great for us. We can do a lot with that. And I don't think people realize. I don't know about you, but people spend a lot of money on mailers, and I understand it gets the name out there. But we're also trying to connect with a younger generation of voters and get them activated. And so if we can activate younger voters, we're not going to activate them through mail-in. We're going to activate them more through texting options. And also, if we are going to hit those demographics that typically do want a mailer, we can activate volunteers to go do door hangers. A lot of volunteers don't want to knock on a door and have necessarily an interaction, but they'll go walk and hang door hangers. So we're just trying to find the more efficient way to do this. And part of that is, again, I think I've had a history of mobilizing people for, in ministry, you work on a shoestring budget. I mean, at least in the ministries I've run, you work on a shoestring budget. And so I'm familiar with doing that work. And that's part of what we're committed to doing, making every dollar count.
Because paying a federal employee to deliver those flyers to every house is much more expensive than asking a bunch of volunteers to do it, right? When you ask the post office to have a person walk up to every house and put it in their mailbox, which, again, just to pause for a minute on how great the post office is. There's an employee that walks up to your house every day, 6 days a week, and brings you stuff for 42 cents
Yeah.
each. It's just incredible. But you start doing that over, 50,000 homes, and that gets to be real.
Mm-hmm.
That becomes real money by the time you print it and ship it and stamp it and deliver it and all that. So look, and this is the piece of it. And oftentimes campaigns want to talk about the system and the money. They all should. They all do. Everyone. And it's also good to just really put a dollar amount on it, like to say, here's how much money it costs and here's where the money goes. Back in the early 2000s or maybe late 90s, middle 90s, there was some book by a guy, one of those Gen X authors, maybe the guy who wrote the first book called Gen X. Do you know what I'm talking about? He's kind of one of those. Anyway, in the beginning of the book, he says, okay, here's how this went. I was paid this much money for a contract to write this book. Here's where the money went. It took me this many months to write it. Here's what I had to pay for this.
Wow.
He put the budget in the front of the book. And it was kind of this generational deconstruction thing, right? Like, I just want to show you how all this works to an author like me. And that really struck me. Maybe that's a generational thing. I think people appreciate that kind of stuff. Like, hey, here's where we spend our money. Here's where it goes. This is how much they have. This is how much we have. And because the obliqueness of this is what really confuses people. They're like, man, I just have literally, why am I chipping in $5 to all these people? What do they do with any of it?
Yeah. So we just spent $1,500 on 250 of these signs, more signs. We had signs already for the primary. Now we're getting more signs. And we have a strategic way we're going to use those signs because they can be put out in public places a month before the election. And so trying to get name recognition up means that we're going to really try to strategically pick spots within Pennsylvania. You can put them on roadways and things in public spaces. So how we're going to do that, we just purchased a billboard. I think it was right around $3,000 to run from, the September 25th to the election. We're 100% transparent on what we're spending money on. We're not spending money on staff. Again, a big portion of dollars goes to staff, goes to a lot of consulting work and stuff like that. And I'm not saying that's not important, but I think in the race I'm running, we're not going to spend half our budget on that stuff. For us, It's going to be far more like tactical printing, making sure we're getting the word out. And I mean, here's the other thing that we're going to mobilize. We're going to mobilize volunteers to be at polls on the day of. As people are walking in to vote, we can have people standing there in a Justin Douglas shirt, telling them why they should vote for Justin Douglas. And if we can cover most precincts with volunteers, other people will pay people to stand outside. And during the primary, I actually witnessed some of those people being paid. They were sitting in lawn chairs. They didn't engage. I was at one polling place for 2 hours, and the person just sat there with a stack of things, didn't engage one voter. And they're getting paid to sit there, but they're not engaging people. So I also think people who are on mission and on purpose for a candidate are far more likely to actually say, I'm voting for Justin and here's why you should too. So that's kind of people power is our campaign. We know that's a far greater resource than money, but it also does take money. That's part of it.
It does. Yep.
So Justin, I married a Pennsylvania girl, went to college and seminary in Pennsylvania. I have no idea where Dauphin County is or what it includes. For those of us that aren't super familiar geographically with where you're at, what's Dauphin County all about?
So Dauphin County is a really important county. It has the capital city, Harrisburg. So Harrisburg is within Dauphin County. It is one of the things that creates some challenges. We have so many governmental buildings within the county that aren't necessarily paying taxes because that's how it works, right? Most capital cities and that. We also have Hershey Park. So Hershey and Hershey Park are within the county as well. So those would be two landmarks that most people from outside of Dauphin County might be familiar with, Harrisburg City and Hershey. Obviously, there's so much more the county has to offer. We're just north of Lancaster, if you've ever been to, Amish country out there, Lancaster. Central Pennsylvania.
Could we just pause for a second for all of our non-Pennsylvania folks to notice how you just pronounced the name of that city? It's not Lancaster. Everybody from all over the country. It's not Lancaster, Pennsylvania. It's Lancaster.
Yes. So I learned this when I got here. I moved here 8 years ago, and my wife refuses to say it that way. She can't stand, and I'm like, you have to say it that way. That's the only way. And it's real simple.
Cost you an election.
Yeah, it could. I probably shouldn't have revealed that. But you just have to say it, Lancaster, and then make it fast. Lancaster, Lancaster, and that's all you got to do. Do it that way, and that's the right way.
So it's a well-known part of the state, and because it's the capital, there's a lot of people that just have additional interest in this county compared to some other counties. Why have these commissioner seats been unchallenged, and why are they unchallenged now, with the exception of the Justin Douglas campaign?
Well, I mean, to be fair, every year they've been challenged. It just challenges haven't been successful.
I see.
I think part of the difficulty is that, once you're in a county commissioner role, you are front facing in so many ways that it's almost its own campaign commercial constantly. You're at every ribbon cutting almost for the county. You're constantly, if you go to our website, just go to Dauphin, I think it's dauphincounty.gov or whatever it is, like, you'll see all three of the commissioners' faces right at the top. Like, it's very, their names are on everything, is what I guess I would say, for the county. It's a very interesting way that works to, I think, further entrench those individuals. Now I'm not going to say that's, I don't know if that's par for the course, but I think the challenge is it takes an exceptional candidate to then come along and upset that. I think we're in a unique time. We're in a unique time right now. So let me tell you the unique time we're in right now. One of the Republican commissioners over the last 4 years retired. There was some controversy there in that, and there was a new person appointed into that role. Now, that person's been in county politics. They're, from what I understand, their entire life, their entire working career. So that transition, that person has never ran for this office. So my hope would be that name recognition maybe isn't on the level that the former person, who I think was there for something like 25 years before, retiring, that might be some exposure. Also, a lot of the prison problems have just become very common knowledge in our county, to I think tell people are interested in a different option.
Mm-hmm.
Someone's going to try to fix this. It's been long running problem. So, yeah.
Justin, I live in Minnesota, and I was in a little town called Stillwater, which is on the Mississippi River. And it was one of the first established places in 1850s, when the state was going to become a state. The three entities that they created first was a capital city, St. Paul. They picked Minneapolis for a university. And the third institution that they made sure at the founding of the state was a penitentiary, a prison. Like, the three things you need is a state capital, a place to educate people at the college level, and a place to lock people up. I bring that up because often state capitals also have a proximity to a penitentiary. Like, prisons in America are just built into the fabric of it all, and becomes one of the more entrenched institutions in this whole thing. You being a candidate that's talking about this, does that stir up are people uncomfortable with that, or uninterested in you getting all up in the business of what's going on in the prisons?
So let me say it this way. I've been going to the Dauphin County Prison Board meetings pretty faithfully since launching this campaign, and I had an awareness of, like, online. I was on an online presence prior to that, and I've been in person mostly. I have found a way to connect, I think, to just about every voter, Republican, Democrat, Independent, why the issue of the prison is important to them. So let me start here. If you are worried about human rights, there are violations of human rights happening within our prison right now. that are unnecessarily happening.
Hmm.
We are 73 people understaffed based on the meeting I was at last week. That's correction officers, treatment specialists. We have over 1,000 people in our county prison. They most of the time are on lockdown, and that's because they don't have the staff to allow for yard
Wow.
time. So you're spending 23 and a half hours in a cell. I think the number was that they only have to offer you 2 showers a week. There's all kinds of problems that exist when you're understaffed like they are. Not to mention when someone has a medical episode, how quickly are they going to be able to respond when they're so grossly understaffed?
Yep.
And so, and that's usually when people die, is that they have a medical episode that goes untreated or isn't treated in a proper way. That's been some of the challenges that's existed when you look at, for lack of a better term, do an autopsy on the last 18 deaths. That's been the problem. So if you care about human rights and you care about treating people with dignity and respect, then that's a lane. Now here's the deal. Not everybody does. That's the challenge with the prison, right?
Yeah.
Not everybody cares about that. But let's say you care about, you're fiscally conservative and you care about money. Let's talk about how we are taking people with unpaid parking tickets, with traffic fines, with unpaid child support, and we're putting them behind bars, and we're paying roughly, this is the estimate, roughly $300 a day we are paying for these people to be in prison. Now, think about that over the course of a month. Over the course of a month, this is money that could drastically transform their lives, and if they are not paying child support, it could transform the lives of their families that they're responsible to support.
Yep.
But it's not going to put them back in a position to support their family. And if you're fiscally conservative, why would we be locking these people up? This makes absolutely
it's the most expensive
no sense.
punishment possible. Yeah.
Yes.
But this is where I'm saying, like, I've found ways to, I think, connect with people on various ways, and then on top of it to say, correction officers are getting burnt out because now they're having to work overtime because they're understaffed, and then they're being put into compromising situations. Like, whatever side of the coin that you look at this and you care about that issue, it's not working for that person. And so it's important to know that, like, if we can make the changes. So people ask, what would you do on day one? Well, on day one, what I would do is I would argue that we need to declare a state of emergency in the Dauphin County Prison. We need to release all nonviolent offenders, especially those being held on fines. Put them on an ankle monitor if you need to, whatever you got to do. Tell them their court date. We live in a world where we can text them updates to their court dates and all that kind of stuff. And I think we need to consider what it looks like to rehabilitate prisoners. We have prisoners who are so Dauphin County, if you're in Dauphin County Prison, you're there for 2 years or less. If you get more than that, you're going to a state prison. So these are people who are going to be back in our communities. Like, if you want a safer community, we can't treat these people this way and then expect them to come out rehabilitated and ready to contribute to society. So I've been talking to some organizations, like I talked to an organization a couple months ago they do VR headsets for prisoners that teach them the trades, like HVAC. They can do HVAC through VR and electrician through VR, and then when they come out, they're certified and ready to go start an apprenticeship. Like, if we could get programs like that into our prison, then what we can do is we can get these people ready to come out and have a different opportunity than the one that likely a society that doesn't provide affordable housing, doesn't provide fair paid jobs, doesn't provide adequate education. That the failure that has set up for them, we can undo some of that during this time. So I want to see this as a comeback story for these people who are in prison, and ultimately something that might save the taxpayers money in the long run and make our community safer. So I know that's a long rant, but I'm very passionate about this. This is one of the big keys of my campaign, is to say we can do so much better than we've done in this area, and it can have a huge impact on our community.
Yeah.
Justin, thank you.
Justin,
thanks for running, man.
Great. Hey, listen, Justin, shameless plug. I don't know, just to annoy Doug, like, how many $20 donors can we get to come your way?
Wow.
$20 or $1,000 or whatever anybody can do.
How much can they chip
shameless
in?
plug. If folks want to follow along, they want to track your campaign, they want to give, they want to be a part, how can they find you? What can they do?
Well, one of the things I really appreciate is that we have a lot of people supporting me that do not live in Dauphin County, that are just seeing someone passionate about their community, someone, you know, a little younger than the demographics that typically are out there in politics, getting involved and trying to be themselves in the process, like you highlighted earlier. I think we need more of that, and that's something that's refreshing to a lot of people. So if this has been refreshing to you, but you don't live in Dauphin County, obviously I can understand this isn't your community, this isn't the place where maybe you want to invest, but I think, you know, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. I think as we see these candidates that are coming up that have a heart for justice, that have a heart to make things right within our politics, that have a heart for you know, common good, the common good of our communities, supporting them can make a huge difference. So some of the ways you can support me is as simple as following me on Instagram, Douglas for Dauphin on Instagram. Go to my website. There's ways that you can support through donating. Like I said, you know, it costs money to make signs. It costs money to print the things we're going to hang on doors. It costs money. We would love to have a second and third and fourth billboard. That stuff costs money, thousands of dollars. And so every dollar you donate, it could be just you deciding you're not going to have Starbucks today because you want to support my campaign. That would make a huge difference in our ability to get the word out that there's a different option this time around.
Yeah, great.
Thank you, Justin Douglas. Hey,
So
and this
appreciate it, y'all.
election is this fall, right? Again,
Yes, November
most of our
7th.
elections are in 2024. This is one of the rare ones that's in 2023. So you're 8 weeks out or something like this, huh?
Yep,
So-
we're I think at the 50-day mark now. So it is it is right here. Every moment is in the forefront of my mind, obviously.
Hey,
Well,
listen,
thanks for spending those moments with us. Appreciate it.
Justin, hey, just free advice from a political consultant. If
Yeah.
you're at the 50-day mark, $50, you know, we're 50 days out, encourage people to give $50 today.
There you go.
And then
I like
49
that.
tomorrow and 48 the
Yeah.
next day. And by the time I do the math, probably hit the limit.
Yeah.
I love it.
Thank you, Justin.
I love it.
All right.
Good
Thank
chatting
y'all.
with you, Justin.
Hey, we'll see you.
Yep.
Bye now.
Bye.
Rob, that's awfully refreshing, isn't it?
Oh, that's so great.
I'm glad people run for office, especially these county commissioner roles. Because, man,
seriously. And it's so interesting, like the different approaches that counties have, you know, like I don't know how it's set up, you know, there where you live, but
yeah, I don't either,
man,
honestly.
I mean, it's, yeah.
I wish I did.
I mean, having 3 county commissioners that kind of run the county, like I mean, here in Arkansas, we've got a county judge and justices of the peace, and those sound like judicial things, but they're not. They're actually the county judge is the executive branch of county government. The justice of the peace, the justices of the peace,
the pies.
the pies, the justices of the peace are called the quorum court. They're like nothing to do with court, and they are the legislative branch. And it's just, you know, so it's set up. It's so interesting how, you know, counties are set up differenneply.
Yeah.
And you're right now Googling how your county.
I literally, did you see my eyes over there? That's what I look like when I'm reading things on my screen. Hennepin County, where I live, has 7 commissioners, not 3. So, you know,
there you go. Super
happens differently. Worth noting because, buddy, I'll tell you, I have walked into a lot of polls, you know, voting polls. I had no idea who I was going to vote for county commissioner. Not even on the. Not even.
I know it's the
and I was going to ask Justin. You know what I bet? I bet most ballots go blank on that, and the people who win have this name recognition where the people who know vote and the people who don't know just don't vote, and they're left blank. And that's my guess. I mean,
yeah, or people
could be wrong about that.
Yeah, I mean, people do. You know, I think all sorts of weird things. You know, they'll vote for the most interesting name, or they'll vote. You know, they'll vote for someone whose name makes them think that it's a woman instead of a man. I mean,
no, that's okay. You're right. I do that stuff. Yep. I do that. for
Yeah.
women, not
So
not for men. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, it's super interesting, and
You know what
being
else I
able to
realized I do just now? I'm
break
remembering.
through that.
If people's yard signs have been in a place that have irritated me, like,
Uh,
classic old man, like there's a corner that we have to make a turn on and people put frickin' signs there. And I'm like, I am never voting for you because you didn't have the common sense to know that we try to make a left turn here and we
Yeah.
can't see because of your yard sign.
Yeah.
So, it's
yes, I'm petty like that too. Yeah.
totally petty like that. Hey, speaking of petty like that, you know who's super petty? Lauren Boebert. She's a
Oh, my
congresswoman
heart.
from Colorado. Can we just dive right in our final minutes on this of political news?
Yeah, and I want to give a hot take not related to Lauren Boebert. I've got a hot take that
On
might
something
surprise
else?
people.
Okay.
On something else. Yeah.
All right.
just
So let's talk about
make
Lauren
sure I
Boebert.
reserve some
She has been she has earned more than her legislative reputation should give her for public attention.
Yep.
She is for a whole lot of reasons. Her look, her style, her flamboyant, mega supporting nonsense statements.
Yeah, her kind of eccentric personality.
Well, over the weekend, video came out of her in a theater watching the show live performance of Beetlejuice, behaving badly, shall we say, including vaping in the theater. And so she was removed for a whole variety of things. The security cameras now show this. Apparently she didn't know there were security cameras, Rob. Here's what I love about this. So she denied the behavior that the theater said they removed her for. I did not vape. And then there's just video of her literally vaping. Yeah. I'm going to set aside my just personal opinion about vaping as a whole and how I think about it. But just to say, you don't get to do that behavior in the theater. And she did. And I don't know what was in her vape pen, but watching her behavior after the vaping, I have some suspicions. And I bet if there was a drug test run, she wouldn't pass. Well, she wouldn't come up clean, as one might say.
Yeah, listen, Colorado, marijuana is legal in Colorado. So no judgment there. But
but for a sitting congressperson, I don't know. Do you know? Can a congressperson take in a federally banned substance? This guy doesn't know.
I don't know.
Curious question.
I don't know. Have you seen the video of her? I think returning to Washington D.C. and she's has a brief conversation with a paparazzi about what happened. And do you know what her comment was? Her comment was, "Well, I guess I'm gonna have to start checking the voter registration of the people I go on dates with," blaming this on the fact that the man that she was with was a Democrat.
He was.
Yes. Yeah.
And she didn't.
Yes. Insinuating that, maybe she was set up. Yeah. Let me see if I can get the quote on this.
Okay. Yeah. And not only was it the vaping, it was the groping. Her male partner was groping her partially exposed breasts anyway in the theater. And I think she was groping back. I didn't watch all the video because it's like watching a football injury. Some things
are just better left unseen.
Hear no evil, see no evil, speak no evil, kind of nonsense.
My eyes.
But just, I mean, look, the degree to which, and Justin's comments, well taken. Let's have our politicians be more authentic people, but also let's have a bit of decorum. If you're going to take on a public role and take on a public responsibility, I don't know, just act in ways that don't get you kicked out of a family, live performance theater. It's really, truly something. And there's no doubt that the theater, when they had to have a security personnel come kneel down next to her seat and ask her to come out and basically demand that she come out and then escort her out of the building, which the video shows all of this happening. There's no doubt they knew who it was, right? She was in Denver. Now, her district doesn't include Denver, but she's well known enough. And there's little doubt in my mind that they were like, okay, they're watching the video surveillance. This is how I think it went down. Now, I don't know this for sure. I'm willing to be wrong about this. Somebody in the security office is watching this and they're thinking to themselves, unbelievable. We cannot let her stay in this theater behaving this way. The person behind her was complaining, turned out to be a pregnant person who was complaining because the vaping was causing some, and she's like, I don't need to be smelling your vaping in the theater. And then having to go out and complain. And then they have to send a security person down during the performance of the family-friendly Beetlejuice.
Is it?
Yeah, and it is. And also, why is she going on a date to Beetlejuice without her own children or grandchildren, which she has both of? I mean, and look, and I'm being particularly poignant and petty about this because of the public persona that she has.
Yes. Because
she is one of the pro-Christian nationalist candidates that we use as an example in our training, in her own words, and try to give her full voice. And her business about drag shows and how it's demeaning, all this stuff. This is the person doing this kind of nonsense. And Rob, it just something else.
Yeah. Can I found this article. Let me hit you with this. Representative Lauren Boebert, Republican, Colorado, said she has, quote, peacefully parted, unquote, ways with her date who was booted with her from a performance of Beetlejuice following disruptive behavior at a Denver theater. Quote, all future date nights have been canceled, and I learned to check party affiliations before you go on a date. Boebert told TMZ in a video that the outlet shared Wednesday, referencing reports that her date is a Democrat. Boebert said her date's political affiliation didn't influence the split, calling him a wonderful man. Nothing to do with anything anybody reported, she explained, but honestly, he's a private citizen, and we have peacefully parted at this time. Great man, great friend. I wish him all the best. Okay, a couple of things here.
It's not about the date. The problem wasn't the date. All right, let's give us your hot take on this.
The trying to blame this behavior on Democrats is just
classic.
Come on.
Right.
B, Doug, I don't know how many times you've broken up in the course of your life.
Zero.
You gone on a date or what's that? You have
zero.
Zero. You've never broken up.
Nope.
Shelley is the only person you ever dated.
Yes, I mean I wasn't even officially dating Tiffany, this person that I was kind of getting to know when I started dating. Tiffany. When I started dating Shelley as a junior in high school, and I have dated no one. I have never been on a date. I've never been broken up with, but I've also somehow never asked anyone on a date. We just were in high school, just started hanging out, and then there was no will you go out with me? Never once. I mean, there's a whole side of human development that happens in the courtship that I have missed, and I'm stunted. But anyway,
wow, that's fascinating.
Don't use me as an example.
Yes. Wow. Have you ever heard anyone describe the process of breaking up with someone or the result of breaking up with someone or people no longer dating? Have you ever heard them describe that with some kind of non-violent qualifier?
I don't know the question. I don't understand the question.
Why you say we peacefully parted ways?
Oh, I see. I see.
What?
Her vocabulary is not very consistent. She probably meant graciously. It's probably what she was trying. The connotation, hey, we agreed, everything was fine, there was no frustration.
Yeah.
Okay. Peacefully.
Okay.
But I'm going to check party registration next time I go on a date. Why?
Clearly, the party registration, as we learned today, party registration, public knowledge. People can find out how you registered. Doug, I've got a hot take for you.
Yabbit says it's short for he's dead to me. It's peacefully passed on. Good one, Yabbits. Good one.
I've got a hot take for you.
What's your hot take? Hot cake?
The United States Senate changed its rules yesterday, allowing senators to vote wearing whatever clothes they want. In the past, it's been suit and tie for men and business attire for women.
Oh, praise Jesus. This is going to look great.
Seems like this is concession or whatever to
Mitt Romney, who wants to come in a tank top and shorts for the rest of this because he's not running for re-election. And he's just like, I am a 78-year-old man and I am not dressing up anymore. I'm going to wear a tank top. Tank top and shorts. Please, Mitt. Please.
We could have senators voting in hospital gowns. We have it's just most of this has been blamed on John Fetterman, who famously likes to wear a hoodie and shorts, which is, as a man of a certain age, is a combo I appreciate.
I'm literally wearing
yeah. Lizzie, I don't like this.
I don't like it either. I don't like it. No.
Put on a suit when you're going to vote. Put on a suit.
I'm with you.
I
have more sensitivity for women members of the Senate because I think it's overly restrictive. Yes. There. I think it's. Whatever, a suit and tie or a jacket and tie or something is easy to get to. Yeah. I think
I don't like it. I don't like it.
Who do you think it's for? Who do you think it's accommodating? You think it's accommodating Fetterman?
Yes, absolutely.
Huh.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't like it.
Well,
put on a suit and tie.
I got a hot take. Are you done with this hot take? Because I got a hot take.
Yeah, I'm done. Yeah.
All right. So I know you don't tend to traffic in who are the governors of the Dakotas. So Rob is not one who's going to bother.
I'm familiar with one and not the other.
Who's going to bother himself with Doug Burgum, former governor of North Dakota and Republican candidate for the presidency of these United States. There's another Dakota, South Dakota.
Yeah,
and Dakota Fanning too. There's Dakota Fanning and South Dakota and North Dakota.
Can I interrupt your hot take with just a quick statement that Doug, the governor of one of the Dakotas, texted me at 8:30 on a Sunday morning asking for money. Doug, you text me at 8:30 on a Sunday morning asking for money, you're not getting any money from me. How did I get on this list?
Well, it says something about your phone number. You can't be putting that phone number into all those websites because you want 10% off and think you're not going to get a text because they correlate that phone number with the thing you bought because that's bought by Republicans. And I'm speaking of your cigars. Okay. Here's my hot take. I know you don't keep up with the governors, but in South Dakota, there's a governor named Kristi Noem.
Yeah.
Kristi Noem.
Yeah.
Apparently is having a marital affair.
Long term.
With Corey Lewandowski.
Yeah.
The point of sale, POS. What am I thinking of? Point of sale. The POS guy from the Trump campaigns, the guy who leads up a lot of Trump's shenanigans and badness. A political operative and guy. For a long time, they've been having an affair, and it's now coming out. Okay? So this affair that Kristi Noem, a Christian nationalist supporting governor and family values person. Okay. So her affair, Lauren Boebert's bad groping and vaping and disrupting a theater experience activity. here comes the hot take, are now being condemned by many Republicans. Many Republican men condemning an affair and condemning inappropriate, bad behavior of two women in the Republican universe. You know who they're not doing that about? All the guys. Nothing about Matt Gaetz. Nothing about Donald Trump. The hypocrisy and the irritation of these Republicans who now are piling on to Lauren Boebert and Kristi Noem, who, look, their behavior is without excuse. We should call it out, all the rest of it. But these are the same people that stay quiet when the accusations are brought against men, and especially against high-profile men. So, a little hot take here. Yeah, keep your condemnations consistent if that's what you think this is about, Republican voices and Republican men. It is like yesterday and today, all the piling on, like, oh, here's a couple of freebies for us to really take a stand again about how we're going to stand. Yeah, really? And you know who you're going after? The two Republican women that have high profile. One who's on the docket to be Trump's running mate, Kristi Noem, who doesn't have the common insight to not run, to not be in an affair while you're running for vice president. Oh, you know why? Because Donald Trump says by his behavior and his acceptance and people's constant devotion to him, we don't care about those things anymore. Yep. Governor Noem, they do care about those things when it's you. Hot take. We need a sound for hot take.
Hot take. Here, I got one. I got one.
I'm pushing buttons on my fancy machine here to see if I got a hot take sound.
This affair between Kristi Noem and no, not that one. That's not a good hot take. Nope.
We need a hot take. I need new sounds. No, we need a hot take sound.
No.
Really?
I like the record scratch.
Hot take?
Yeah, that's it. Whoa.
Oh yeah! If anybody's still watching this or listening, thank you. Thank you for sticking with us.
Here we go. I got one for you.
Okay, hot take. Is this hot take?
Yeah.
Gotta get my button ready.
So this Kristi Noem, Corey Lewandowski affair.
Mm-hmm.
The news breaks. I believe it was broken by a woman who wants to be Trump's vice president and saw Kristi Noem as a threat to that.
Who?
I don't know. Marjorie Taylor Greene, Sarah Huckabee Sanders.
The Huck? The Huck is, do you think the Huck is positioning for vice president? Wow.
Yeah.
Your governor. See what I just did?
Yeah. Oh, Carrie Lake. Alex just said in the comments. That's
there we go.
Probably who it is.
There we go.
Yes, there it is.
There we go. Hot take. That's to you, Alex. Alex got a hot take. Hot take. What? By the way, when is this phrase "hot take"? When did this pop in? Because I keep seeing it on. I watch a lot of YouTube videos for trying to learn stuff like how to fix a hose, play guitar, and run a political organization, and what deconstructed Christianity looks like. And people using this hot take is this? I mean, honestly, just like seriously. That's why I watch the deconstruction Christianity stuff.
You seriously? Wait, hold on. You've watched the deconstruction Christianity videos on YouTube?
Yeah, a lot of them.
Why?
I fixed my hose. I learned how to play it. I'm out of things. I got nothing left.
Yeah, I mean, but those are how-tos. Like, do you need a how-to video on deconstruction Christianity?
It's a hobby of mine. Yeah, you know.
Yeah,
I want to see if they quote me ever. I want to see if I ever get a mention.
Okay. Do you have a Google alert set up for your name?
Of course, yeah, I do. I do have that. Everyone should have that. I mean, unless your name is like Kevin Smith, and then really, please don't. But if you've got a funny name,
when Keith Davenport was running for state legislature in Kansas, I
Thank
set
you,
up
Kimberly.
I
I'm curious, Rob. I'm just a curious person.
yeah. I set up a a Google alert for his name as well as his opponent's name, and his opponent's name is a little bit more common, and I would get I would get emails from Google, and they were never about his opponent. It was really annoying.
I thought you were going to receive all sorts of like sofa and house furniture.
Yeah.
Because Keith Davenport still greatest name in politics to me.
Labor Day sale at
yeah. Oh, look, that's a great take that this stuff about Noam is being put out, because others were saying that it was, including Kristi Noem, is saying that it's coming from people who want to destroy her reputation so she can't be the running mate to Donald Trump. Which this could all be true. It's just it's not Lauren.
It's not coming
Boebert's
from Democrats,
date.
Right?
Yeah.
It's not coming from Democrats. It's coming from one of the other rivals. To be Trump's running mate.
This is the problem with reality TV. It's that it now becomes the frame by which I think about all this stuff.
Yeah. Oh, Vision from Afar is hitting us with the Wikipedia entry on hot takes.
Oh. Wow. Hey, Vision Afar, you are about to reach legendary status here. If you're copy and pasting out of Wikipedia to help us in real time.
I love it.
On YouTube, there's a thing where you can make a boosted donation and then it puts your it's called a sponsored chat. Jim was doing that for a while and we didn't know what it was. What was a $2? He was just donating money to us. We didn't even know what it was. We need a reverse version of that. Yes. For Alex and for Kimberly and for Mike and for Jim and now for Vision Afar, we're chipping them $1. Like someone just behaved in a great way.
Comes from sports-related debate shows, which is appropriate for us today. Referring to the tactic of hosts picking a topic from the sports zeitgeist, one of my favorite words,
right.
Often one that has no business being discussed because the answer is unknowable, making loud, fact-free declarations about
this
the topic,
podcast needs to be called Hot Take.
Angry listeners to call in and providing show content.
This entire project of the Common Good podcast is a hot take.
Hot take.
Thank you, Vision from Afar. Carl
the Heathen.
That is awesome. Carl the Heathen from Power.
I don't know what that means, but
that's awesome. Hi, Carl, and nice name. We'll follow up with you about all that stuff. Hey, we appreciate that. Well, Alex says, is she having the affair or not? Then who cares? Who broke the news? She's finding fault with the person calling her out and breaching the values. No, so she says she is not having the affair. Let's be clear here. In full disclosure of what she's saying. She's like, no, I'm not having an affair with Corey Lewandowski. That woman, Corey Lewandowski.
I did not have sexual relations with that man, Corey Lewandowski.
With that man. So I'm guessing she's not. My hot take was to be putting the focus on the self-righteous Republicans who now are finding a spine to speak out about such things.
Yeah.
Because the rest of it didn't matter. It was, look at the policies. I'm not concerned about what they say. I'm not concerned about what they do. I'm concerned about what they provide for the American people. That is apparently not their situation when it's Lauren Boebert and Kristi Noem.
Their misogyny is showing. Yeah, and
it's not just men, by the way. I should have been more. I think I put overemphasis because the first people I heard about was men, but it's a whole bunch of them. It's a whole bunch of people. Yep. All right. Well, that's really fun to see Carl the Heathen here. Super great.
It seems like you and Carl the Heathen have some background, have some history.
Yeah. We had a big event that we were at, the Parliament of World Religions. In fact, one of the interviews we did with Carl is going to come out here. Carl was one of the We met a lot of people from different religious experiences and different religious backgrounds, and we hosted these podcasts, and we're trying to put them together. There were so many, and they were all so great. They are soon to be coming. So, Carl, wait for yourself on here, and
Love it.
That's how you get in. Hey, and by the way, if any of you regulars in the YouTube spaces, and Kimberly, you too, I know you're consistently on the Facebook. No, who am I thinking of? That's always in the Facebook space. Wasn't Kimberly. We have very little Facebook right now. If any of you have a reason to be a guest in this podcast, well, by golly, let me know. Doug at vocommongood.com is an email, and you can find my phone number by Googling my name and phone number, I think. Everybody but the former governor of North Dakota could find my phone number. Let's stay in touch about these things because I'd love to have any of you on the podcast. So many good things. All right, Rob, is that enough? Hour and 20 minutes.
That is enough.
Yeah, really reaching Spotify podcast levels, if you know what I'm saying. Okay, friends, we will talk with you tomorrow. Thanks everybody, Yabbits and Alex, Kimberly, aka Carl, Jim, Peggy, all of y'all. Thanks for being a part of all this. And by the way, Kimberly, I'm just going to put your early chats up. She says, late again. I was waiting to hear President Biden from the UN Assembly. So after she was waiting to hear the current president of the United States address the UN Assembly, then she popped back to us. So we're like a palate cleanser, because then she updates us back again after listening to Biden's speech. So Kimberly, thanks for bookending us with a little Joe at the UN sandwich in between. Appreciate it. Okay. Bye, everybody. Bye.
Bye.